Jai Sadgurudeo all, and very good morning to all of you. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Can someone please confirm?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Welcome to our weekly English Satsang organized by North America Institute of Vihangam Yoga. I am Megha Joshi and I have joined the Satsang from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Before I proceed further, I would like to offer my prayers to the lotus feet of Sadguru and request everyone to join me. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. In the current times, our day-to-day life has become busy in fulfilling our physical and mental requirements and also social responsibilities. In this fast-paced routine life, the requirement of our soul is often forgotten. So first, I would like to congratulate each one of you for taking some time from your busy schedule to fulfill the requirement of your soul through satsang. Through this satsang, you will experience the benefit of yoga and pranayama, which can positively impact your health and nourish your body. Moving ahead to our next session, we are blessed to have today with us our experienced practitioner who has such firm grasp over Sadguru Siddhant and the core principles of Brahm Vidya. Vijay Kumarji is joining us from Edison, New Jersey, to help unravel some of the most enigmatic concepts around intellect or buddhi and wisdom or Vivek. Understanding these two will help us comprehend the difference between our conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. I hand over to Vijayji now. Over to you, Vijayji.
Thank you, Meghaji. Jai Sadgurudeo, everyone. Let's take this moment to remember our Sadgurudeo. सब देवों का देव है, परम पुरुष का रूप, बिन गुरु प्रभु जीव ना मिले, भटकी रहे भवकूप। अंड मंडलाकार है, व्यापक विश्व महान, सो सदगुरु का रूप है, अनुभव में पहचान। We are truly blessed that we are having time for satsang. Satsang is the platform where we develop our Vivek. Vivek, the term Vivek itself relates to the aspect that guides our soul to righteousness. The term Buddhi, Vivek, conscious mind, subconscious mind, these terms are very subtle, and the difference of these terminologies, sometimes we get too technical discussing things, but what the intent behind discussing these terminology is also to pay attention to things going within us. So today we'll take this opportunity to develop our more interest towards observing ourselves. When am I using my calm buddhi? When I am using my hans buddhi? Is my Vivek functional? Am I conscious? Or subconsciously something else is going on and I just let my body and indriyas flow with the subconscious mind. So these are something that we want to be more conscious about, more awakened about. That would be the intent of the session today. So let's try to understand what is buddhi. Buddhi is one of the four inner faculty. Okay, one of the four inner faculties, we call it inner organs, antahkaran. One of the four antahkaran. Okay. These are like managers. Antahkaran are actually the managers of our Vahyakaran. The outer organs, you have sensory organs, you have organs of actions. There are five sensory organs, five organs of actions. But then they function under the governance of these inner organs, inner faculties. They are called antahkaran. The four antahkaran are man, buddhi, chit, ahankar. Right? These are the four inner organs. So buddhi is one of them. And buddhi is the very important organ if you really want to function in a proper manner. Without buddhi, the knowledge that you have within you will not reflect into action. Buddhi is the one that receives the light of wisdom and then reflects, make it reflect into action. Swamiji says in his book that if you have vidya, if you have knowledge, if you have information within you, whether it is information, whether it is knowledge, whether it is experience, if it has to be functional in action, you require buddhi to be in a good shape for that. Otherwise, everything is futile, useless. So, buddhi is definitely one very important inner faculty, antahkaran. Okay, what is the functionality of buddhi? Buddhi in Hindi, Swamiji says, grahan, dharan, smaran. These three functionality is what we perform using buddhi. Grahan Shakti is of Buddhi. The Dharan Shakti is of Buddhi. The Smaran Shakti is also defined by the power of Buddhi. How powerful your Buddhi is, how sharp your Buddhi is, that will decide how much you have the Grahan Shakti, Dharan Shakti, and Smaran Shakti. Okay? I'll explain that in English. Dharan Shakti, Grahan Shakti, and you have Smaran Shakti. What is Grahan Shakti? Grahan Shakti means to, Grahan means to receive, to grasp. right? How much grasping power you have. Just to make it easy for us to remember, I will translate everything starting with letter R so that we know that the intellect or the buddhi has triple R functionality. Triple R. What is Grahan? Grahan is, you can say, reception, to receive. So we'll say reception power, how much you can receive things clearly. Dharan is to retain, how much you can retain things. And Smaran Shakti is the recall, how much you can recall, remember things that has happened in the past. What is the rate or the speed at which you can recall things, right? So we can say recall or remembrance. So triple R. The buddhi has the triple R functionality. Reception. We understand, if we try to understand about reception here means the power of recognition. It's not just reception, but it's also recognition, you can say. How you can relate things easily that, oh, what I see is this. Or not only about analyzing what you see, but here reception also means that if within a fraction of time, if somebody is showing you a thing or speaking about a thing, what percentage of the content you're able to register in your head? That's what is your reception power, your grasping power, right? So based on how sharp our buddhi is, we would have that degree of reception power, the recognition power, the grasping power. Okay, you'll be able to, somebody require more lecturing to understand a thing, somebody just a line is enough and will grasp thing. Dharan Shakti means to retain. In fact, if I give you a number right now, 614-787-0693, somebody will say, oh, can you please repeat? Why? Because maybe his reception is, at different rate. And also even if he receive it, but while he started writing it down, he is not able to carry it with it while he writes it down to the paper. Right? So how much you're able to hold what you received, how much you're able to retain. So that also is defined by the power of buddhi. How powerful, how sharp our buddhi has become. Right? So buddhi is loosely also translated in English as intellect. Right? So Grahan Shakti is the power of reception. The Dharan Shakti is the power of retention. How much you are able to retain things, hold things that you have just received, how long you can hold it. And the Smaran Shakti is, many times we try to remember a thing and it takes time. For some people, it's like quick. You can just remember things very quickly. You can recall. Everything is there within your chitta, right? Everything is photographed and registered within our chitta. But on a given circumstances, somebody is able to recall things quickly, somebody is not, and then later the same person will be able to recall things. So that Smaran Shakti, how much you're able to, how how soon, how easily, how smoothly you are able to recall things is also based on how sharp, how pure your buddhi is. Yeah. So Buddhi has these three functionality. And that's why if you want to measure the degree of sharpness of Buddhi, you can do that on the basis of these three parameters. How easily you are able to grasp things, how much you're able to retain things, and by the way, retention is what relates to what you register with clarity in your chitta. Okay, this retention, this power itself will basically helps in registering what you grasped with clarity in chitta. Otherwise, a hazy picture will go in chitta, right? Whatever you are, because in the transition between grasping and registering in chitta, you have to retain that information, right? What you grasp and with what clarity you grasp, it will register in chitta with that clarity. If let's say you have seen thing but you have not labeled it properly, you have not recognized it, you just saw some random thing, you have just not developed any understanding about what you just saw, it will go in chitta with that confused in hazy picture, meaning later if something similar also happens, you not necessarily will be able to recall it with clarity that exactly same thing had happened before, but only if you have consciously recognized a thing, grasped the thing and put it in your chitta with that clarity, it is only then you will be able to relate things and make use of that grasp in future time very easily. So buddhi is very important in not only receiving things, but also in passing on the things to the chitta with clarity. Okay, so this is where the grahan and dharan comes into picture. How much clarity you have in receiving things and passing on to chitta. This is where the grahan and dharan shakti help. And once you register things with clarity, then your Smaran Shakti will help to bring that forward in future time, right? So chitta is one of the chit that I'm just talking about is not about consciousness, but I'm talking about one of the antahkaran, the man buddhi chitta ahankar. Here chit is the repository. This is the repository of what you see, what you experience. But it is Buddhi who is able to then bring that forward. It runs the query, in computer terminology, in software industry, we write code to fetch the information from database, right? When you write code, what query, in fact, in today's AI world, we write prompts, right? We write prompts to bring the best suitable information from AI LLM, right? AI has a model. So you bring the information accurately based on how accurate your prompts are. How so Buddhi is what play the role of writing the right prompt for the chitta as the LLM model, if you want to understand in that context. So buddhi knows only if your buddhi is sharp, it will just pinpoint and bring the right information from chitta. So buddhi plays a vital role in our day-to-day function. If buddhi is not functional, then your all knowledge, all information in chitta everything will be futile because there's nobody to make use of the data that you have within you. So if you want to, somebody asked in chat, what is the difference between the intelligence and Vivek, right? What is the difference between intelligence and Vivek? If you want to understand intelligence, you can understand intelligence in terms of how powerful your buddhi is in executing these three functionality. There is a thief who can use his buddhi. If he's an intelligent thief, he's a thief. He does the bad things, but he's intelligent in doing the bad thing. He is very sharp in executing his job. So sharpness of the buddhi is defined by intelligence. How sharp your buddhi is, how powerful your buddhi is. So the power of buddhi, the power of intellect is defined by intelligence. But the purity of intellect is defined by Vivek. How pure your buddhi is. What is the degree of purity in your buddhi? That is what is defined by Vivek. So Vivek is the light of wisdom that that is imposed on buddhi at the time it functions. So buddhi makes use of Vivek to take the right decision. You can take the wrong decision and execute the wrong deeds perfectly using your intelligence. But based on how much Vivek is developed within us, you'll be able to accordingly drift away from wrong to right. So Vivek is the purity level of your intelligence. And that's why Swamiji says that there is a calm buddhi and there is a Hans buddhi. The drift from calm buddhi to Hans buddhi, where is your inclination? You could be intelligent in both. Your intelligence level will be 100% in calm buddhi also, in Hans buddhi also, but your Vivek will make you shift from calm buddhi to Hans buddhi. What is calm buddhi? Calm buddhi is when you are indulged in the materialistic gain, materialistic, or rather, you, yeah, you're more driven by the subjects. It's like more inclined towards. So your contemplation, your analysis, the gain and loss, everything is going within just the domain of the materialism. You're more materialistic, and you engage, you plan to engage, you make use of your buddhi only in that field, towards that area. So it's more of a you know impurity, you can say. It's more of a impurity of buddhi That's what is Kama Buddhi. Kama Buddhi is a state of impurity of Buddhi. But Hansa Buddhi is when you are more uplifting, you are more going towards purity. And Hansa Buddhi is the highest stage of that purity, highest stage of that purity. So our journey in spirituality is also a journey from Kam Buddhi to Hans Buddhi. From Kam Buddhi to Hans Buddhi. So differentiator is not the intelligence, but the differentiator is the Vivek. Vivek is what drives us towards Hans Buddhi. So what is Hans Buddhi? Hans Buddhi is the purity. Purity, or rather says the pure Buddhi, spiritually awakened, so calm buddhi leads to the strengthening of bondages. Calm buddhi will only strengthen our bondages, but Hansa buddhi will elevate, it will release you from bondage. It will lead you to the independence of the soul, upliftment of the soul. And Vivek is the differentiator. Vivek is what drives us towards Hansa buddhi. So this is the difference between intelligence and Vivek. Intelligence is the sharpness of the buddhi in executing the three functionality: the reception, retention, and recall, the triple R functionality. How powerfully, how beautifully, how smoothly you can perform these triple R functionality is defined by your intelligence. But Vivek is the purity of your action. Vivek brings the purity of your action. Vivek guides your buddhi to choose right versus wrong. So I hope that clarifies. If there's any question from anybody, let's bring that forward and we'll discuss in that line. Or if anybody else wants to brings more light to this subject, please feel free to speak up for me also to learn something.
Jai Sadgurudeo, Vijayji.
Yes, Uday. Yeah.
How can we ascertain that our Vivek is getting, that we are doing something per our Vivek or just the basic intelligence? It's like there's always a voice, an inner voice guiding us. There's always some intuition. It says this is right, this is wrong, even though this is what I should be doing. But how do I know what I need to do? Like since keep saying that do what needs to be done instead of what you want to do. Or how do I know that I'm acting that intention is coming out of Vivek informed intellect versus just plain intellect? There's always a lot of gray areas.
Yeah, so I mean, this is very good jigyasa, I would say, because everybody thinks that I'm doing right based on what Vivek, what degree of Vivek they have. So whatever degree of Vivek I have developed within myself, I can choose only based on the degree of Vivek that I have. It may be right, it may be wrong. Still, I may not be perfect in making decisions that this is right. So Vivek is not binary, you know. Vivek is not binary that okay, you have no Vivek and then you suddenly have full Vivek. It is not like that. Vivek develops with time, with experience. And there's a very good um, concept from Sant Namdevji Maharaj. Sant Namdevji Maharaj says that what should we listen to? Should we listen to our intellect or should we listen to our heart? And it's very easy to fall victim of this. We always think that no, no, no. When our heart says means that's always true. Our buddhi may be uh, also playing tricks and may drive us to something wrong, but our heart is always right. We very easily accept this misconception. Sant Namdevji Maharaj clarifies that neither we should be 100% relying on buddhi nor to our heart, because we have to be open to see more possibilities. The reason is, what do you hear from your heart? If you pay attention to it, what comes out of our heart? It is dependent on our upbringing. It is dependent on our sanskar. What has gone in our chitta? When we say that, okay, my heart feels that this is what I should do, it does not mean that it has come straight from the purity of your soul. No, because the chitta is also in the heart region only. And that's why you feel, the feeling that you get, you always feel that it's coming from my heart. Actually, it is coming from our chitta. So whatever is there in your chitta is driving the feelings that you get out of our heart. So if somebody is considering and have been registering things in a positive note, that if I go to temple and bow down, this is perfect thing to do, and then I should get back to my work and do the daily duty, and that is sufficient for me. So he'll be satisfied just with that. And if somebody asks him that, uh, what do you think is more important, doing meditation or bowing down to temple? He will say, okay, let me try both. He will try to meditate. He will not feel comfortable because he's doing it for the first time. But when he bows down to temple, he feels very peaceful. Why? Because that is what he has been doing from the childhood, and a feeling is attached to it. Every time he bows down, the same positive feeling is aggravating. It's building up, and it's very easy to bring that breeze of feeling of purity when he bows down. So he will say, my heart says meditation does not make me feel as good as bowing down in the temple. But when you talk to a yogi, a devotee who goes to the temple, who bows down and also meditates in the temple, he says bowing down to the temple is definitely the first step because that's what sets me for getting good feeling in meditation as well. So both are good, but the lasting impression that I get is from meditation because he has been meditating. So he will choose meditation over bowing down to the temple alone. He will say, bowing down plus meditation, both are important. I cannot choose just one. So, what comes out of our heart is not the absolute, but it is relative. It depends on what you and I have been doing in our life. And it may not be accurate. That's why Santanam Deji Maharaj says, don't be 100% relying on your buddhi, neither on your heart. But you have to be open for new opportunities, new ideas, new knowledge, new wisdom, and analyze that, introspect, and accordingly adapt. Don't go by your feeling, but always be open to listen and then use your understanding, your power of intellect, your Vivek to refine, fine tune your understanding. So fine tuning is what we need to keep doing, and don't be 100% driven by what feeling comes from your heart. Your feeling of heart will slowly change based on what you grasp, as you age. Your feeling will change based on how much vivek you develop within yourself. So so this is where the the thing is that the vivek is developing. It is developing with experience. So whatever is the level of vivek developed so far, we can only make decisions based on that. And as we progress more in meditation, in satsang, these are the platform where the Vivek is developed. Through meditation, Vivek is developed. Through satsang, Vivek is awakened. Vivek is developed. And if you want to think that okay, whether my Vivek, whether the decision that I'm taking is from the normal buddhi or from Vivek, you cannot differentiate. You actually don't isolately choose whether I'm using my kama buddhi or or the the hansa buddhi. You don't make that decision, but rather it is a state. You are in that state. When you are more in satsang, automatically the degree of hansa buddhi will be more functional. And when that is more functional, your decisions will have more of a vivek power in it. So if we really want to make the best use of our vivek, then it's important to be in constant touch with satsang. It is important to be in regularity of meditation practice. Only with that the vivek will be more awakened, more functional, and will remain in that state. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Vijayji. Beautifully explained. Jai Sadgurudeo.
Jai Sadgurudeo. Good morning to all. I just wanted to add one thing. Vijay pretty much explained it very well. The Ramcharitmanas prasang is very famous also, which says, "Bin satsang na hoye, Ram kripa bina sulabh na soy." But that satsang apparently, when we begin to listen to the satsang, and when we say satsang, it has to be from Sat Purush, Sacha wala Sat, Sacha wala Sang. Otherwise, if we start listening to a lot of katha vachaks, then it could become very misleading also. So for only the satsang which is coming from the Satpurus, which is let's say, Nishkam Bhav, the Satpurush who is delivering, expounding the knowledge of the Satpurush, of the God, in a Nishkam, selfless perspective. And actually, that finds one beautiful kind of sansmaran of Kabir Das. During that time, there was a intellectual of Shastras called Padmanabham. When you Google about him, you will find out actually. And what he used to do is he would put a lot of the Shastras, all scriptures, in a bullock cart. And he will go from city to city, bazaar to bazaar, and do Shastras and defeat people. And he would take like really, he was drawing happiness by defeating people. So once he thought he will go to Kashi, which is the hub of the spiritual shastras, and he's going to defeat and win there, and then he can claim that he's the super intellectual, right? And most of the, so once the pandits came to know that he's coming to do shastras, they got scared that wait a minute. So then they prayed to Lord Shiva, because the Shiva's hub, right? Kashi Vishwanath temple. And somehow Shiva appeared in some of Purohit's dream, and he told him that there is a sant who lives nearby called Kabir. So please ask Padmanabhan to go there. So they all came together and they said, okay, let's do that. That way we don't have to do one by one, and we will accept defeat if Kabir is defeated. And so Padmanabhan was pleased that, okay, that's great. I don't have to do with all of you. I can just defeat one guy and then I'll claim victory over Kashi. So he went to Kabir, and Kabir was like as usual. He was doing his everyday, grahast activity, and he sees that this guy shows up with his own delegation with a lot of scriptures in a bullock cart, and he says, okay, I want to do Shastrarth with you. So okay, all right, but first tell me कि तुम जान के पढ़े हो कि पढ़ के जाने हो? He asked him that. And he was like puzzled. He couldn't find where that prasang is. It was actually nowhere. And then he said that, okay, I'll come back tomorrow and I will respond to you. And Kabir Das said, yeah, take your time. And he went and he was contemplating. And he sat under a burger tree, right? And he was thinking like, how am I going to respond to Kabir? Because this is like, jaan ke padhe ho ki pad ke jane ho? He's like contemplating. And then there was two priests sitting on the burger tree, and one of them is telling the other guy that please don't sit on that branch. So why? Because there is a intellectual called Padmanabhan. That place is reserved for him. So why? Where is he coming from? So he is somebody who is doing Shastrat with Kabir, and once he leaves his body, he's supposed to come and dwell in this branch. So please don't sit this place. So he got absolutely scared. And then the next morning he went there and he bowed down to his feet, say, I'm so sorry. And now I've absolutely changed. And he became the biggest bhakta of Kabir Das, actually, Padmanabhan. So what that tells us is that, when the Kabir Das asked him, how did he know? By the end of the day, the purpose in satsang is to eventually know. People know, but they don't जान नहीं पाते. तो वही कबीर दास ने उनको बोला कि तुम जान के पढ़े हो ये सारे स्क्रिप्चर्स या पढ़ करके जाने हो. I mean, such an amazing thing. And then when I was thinking about it, like, wait a minute, that's what all the satsang is about. It's by the end of the day, it's about knowing and manening. I don't know what the better word for that is. And once we begin to manana, then what happens is a lot of the decision making, it may sound absolutely wicked from the outside, but it will be in line with that kind of a personality, because that person, he will always be cautious that he's not offending others, because that's really what that truth is about. It is so beautiful, and he will be nirbhay. So I think so then what happens is a lot of the activities in the samsara becomes sahaj, I think. So that should be the outcome of Vivek, and it's the purest form of intellect, and that can only happen through the satsang, And this Sansmaran of Kabir Das actually very, very beautifully, makes it understand. So I just wanted to share that actually. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjji, for very beautiful insight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Vijayji,
Yeah.
you have explained intelligence very well, Buddhi. It's very helpful. We started with Antakarana, the
Yeah.
apparatus,
Mm.
4 parts of the thing, Man,
Mhm.
Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. Could you shed light on these 4 parts?
Yeah,
what is the
sure.
hierarchy? So we can put together what is this apparatus is, and what is the hierarchy? What's the more important? Could you talk that about so
Yeah,
we can
sure.
relate to it?
See, ideally, if you look at the chariot, we know that Sarthi is very important. So in that, analogy, we can say that the Buddhi is definitely the most important inner organ of the four in terms of driving your life in the right path. But the functioning of your life itself will be handicapped without mind being, you know, controlled. So, and without mind being functional. So, without mind, our indriyas, mind meaning man, without man, our indriyas and all will not be functional properly. So mind and buddhi both are definitely very important, but the buddhi is always on top of mind. Without buddhi, it is like you have been given all the powers, but you don't know how to make the best use of that power. It is the situation like that. Mind has all the powers. It has the power to drive our indriyas, but how to drive and where to drive, that is what is decided by buddhi. So that's why buddhi has to be always considered superior to the mind. Now, how it functions, all four of this, we can understand by a simple example that, let's say, we touch a thing. When you touch a thing, the feeling of touch has been received only through the mind. Okay, so when you touch a thing, feeling of touch is received by man. Okay. So man is the one that passes on the feeling of touch from our senses to the soul. So man is what is responsible for passing the feeling of touch as a raw element. Man does not label it what kind of feeling I have received, but there is a feeling of touch. That sensation is what is there in your skin only because of the mind. Because mind is what I'm sorry here, but I'm saying in English mind, but please consider mind as man. So mind is what is passing the consciousness of the soul to your senses, and that's how your senses is conscious and is able to sense a subject which is coming to your sensory organ. So that's why the feeling of touch is received or is happening because of the mind. If the mind is not there, then the feeling will not happen. Yeah. Now, what do you feel? What is it? This is where your buddhi comes into picture. So what buddhi does it? Okay, let's first talk about chitta. Okay, what chitta does it that based on that feeling, it gives options. It has options. Instead of giving options, I'll say it has options. It has options related to the feeling. So when you touch something soft, but it is long, it is in length. Now you have an option. It could be maybe a wood stake, it could be snake, could be rope, you know, anything of this sort. But then it is the power of Buddhi to the Smaran Shakti of Buddhi. It is the Smaran Shakti of Buddhi which is able to make the match that when I registered the feeling of rope, that experience was something similar to what I am experiencing now. Okay, so that comparison of what you had registered before, making relation with options and current subject, and recognizing correctly. So this is what Buddhi does. Buddhi will then be able to say, oh, what I'm touching now is the rope. It's not a snake. It's not a wood stick. Because this is what Buddhi does. Now, what does Ahankar does? The Ahankar is one of the four inner organ. So Ahankar, without Ahankar, everything that you act today, you won't be functional without Ahankar. Okay, so whatever action is being blueprinted within your head, whatever actions you're blueprinting, whatever conclusions you're blueprinting, to get that into action, you need a trigger of ahankar. Only with ahankar you associate yourself with that action. Okay, otherwise everything will be there in your head, but nothing will be functional. You won't be involved into actions. So ahankar gives that trigger to the soul for action. Okay, so ahankar gives the trigger of action. So your mind and intellect weaves the blueprint of action, and ahankar is what actionize it. Ahankar is what then gives the trigger of action. So without ahankar, one will not get into action. That's the job of these four inner organs.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. Uh, but we are told, or at least instructed, to go beyond. This is part of Prakriti. Why do we have to go beyond this thing?
Very, very good question, Hasmukh Bhai. So I know that Hasmukh Bhai is putting all these questions for us to drive this satsang in a beautiful conclusions. He knows things, but it's his humbleness that is bringing things forward to drive it to the right direction. So as we understand that our, existence is not limited in the dimension of inertness. It is not just the body, it is not just actions, it's not just senses, it's not just inner faculty, but we are somebody beyond our body. We are a soul. So there are two dimension of entities. One is the inert dimension and one is the conscious dimension, the Chetan dimension. Now, to what can you grasp? Just think about it. If you apply buddhi, the Grahan Shakti, Dharan Shakti, Smaran Shakti. The Buddhi is limited to these three powers. But these powers only in the context of inertness. Our Buddhi will be able to, or mind, or chit, or ahankar, all these four inner organs will revolve around what is created in this universe. But what is not created, what is already existing, is beyond the reach of these inner faculties and our senses. And our seeking from inside, or the opportunity that we have got in the human body, is also something which is not in the dimension of inertness. Our seeking from inside is to re-attain the state of bliss that we were in before we fell in this trap of life and death. And that this is why when we revolve our life around just the materialistic subjects, which is what our antahakaran is able to engage us with, they are not sufficient to make us really feel satisfied, because we are not seeking the droplet of happiness which is available in this materialistic life, but we are looking for the ocean of happiness. So, no matter how sharp our buddhi becomes, no matter how intelligent we become, if we just rely on the intelligence of our buddhi, we would at most reach to the droplet of happiness. But our seeking is for the ocean of happiness. Now, to reach the ocean of happiness, we have to silence our mind. We have to basically revert and sublime, submerge all the actions of the inner faculties. Only when everything sleeps down, then the consciousness alone remains functional. The conscious awakening happens, and this has to be done consciously. Consciously making your all faculties sleep. I'm using the term sleep. Sleep is a negative term, but in reality, when we meditate, we just merge these faculties inward into its source. From where it activates, we just bring them back to its source and make them still, non-functional at that point, and then let only the consciousness arise. So only when the mind quietens, then the consciousness is set free to go beyond the reach of the mind. If mind is functional, then the consciousness is trapped within the limit of the mind. And mind is always limited to inertness. And that's why without quietening the mind, the consciousness will remain limited in seeking things, in connecting things in the world of inertness. So, to go beyond the world of inertness and reach or tap the experience of consciousness, it is important to set our consciousness free from the limits of the mind. And this is where we need to go beyond these four inner faculties by quietening them, by meditating, by collecting our consciousness together, and then let the consciousness be driven by the inner force called Sadguru. Only Sadguru then drives our consciousness from one subject to the other subtle subject, and more subtle and more subtle. You go from grossness to the subtleness. Currently, our consciousness is more gross in nature, in the sense, whatever consciousness has been engaging with, our consciousness has become that grossy in nature. In the sense, it can only grasp the gross thing. It cannot grasp the subtle things because the consciousness itself has become that grossy in nature. So, to further refine our consciousness, collect our consciousness, and make it more susceptible, more receptive of the subtleness of the other subjects, it has to be slowly moved away from the limits of these four inner faculties. And this is where meditation comes into picture. When we meditate, we collect our consciousness together, and then our master, the true Sadguru, is one who pulls our consciousness to the further subtle subjects. And as we progress, the more subtle subjects start coming into our experience that was otherwise not receivable by our sensory organs, not perceptible by our inner faculties. Only by Sadhguru's pulling force, our consciousness is slowly refined from grossness to subtleness, and to more subtleness, and to more subtleness. And the most subtle subject of our experience is the Almighty Himself. He is the most subtle subject of experience. So, to reach to that, the most subtle subject, only Sadhguru can help, nobody else. And this is where the devotion for Sadhguru also comes into picture. More we devote, more we develop love and devotion for Sadhguru, more we become eligible for the journey into subtleness. Thank you.
Thank you. I have more questions, but I'll let other people ask questions. Thank you.
I have one question, actually, very beautiful, enlightening suggestions by Vijayaji, actually. And the last part, especially, that the more devotion and more love for the Sadguru entity will help in in that migration transition. And so one question Vijayaji I had was, at what stage, let's say the devotion is there, but at what stage of grossness is in the part of the purusharth of the sadhak? Until the sadhak gets to that level of grossness, Sadguru Kripa will not work, or the Kripa works irrespective of grossest of the grossest level the sadhak is. If you could help on that. Yeah.
Yeah, Swamiji says in Swarved, Antah Karana Pavitra ho Shuddha Hansa Vahi Par. So it also depends on how much dirt we have in our chitta, how much dirt we have in our mind, in our buddhi, how much cleanup is required, right? So as we engage more in meditation, in worship, in satsang, we progress from impurity to purity. And it's a very relative term for somebody who is already born and he's now destined that in this life he's already ready, he's already clean with his antakaran. For him, just hearing the words Sadguru or just remembering Sadguru's current physical form, that itself is enough to get pulled inward into higher stage of experience. But for somebody, nothing happens, no reaction. Even Swamiji's darshan, no reaction. So it's a very relative thing, and it's not one life journey. If you think that in this life, if we have developed our Vivek at least to that much that we can understand the importance of satsang and meditation and engage ourselves into it, that itself is, at least putting us into higher stage of discipleship. We know that disciples are of different degree. We have adham, adhamadam, adham, we have Madhyam, we have Kanisht also, Madhyam, and we have Uttam, Koti ka Shishya. So the difference between Uttam and Madhyam is only of the, you can say, the Prarabdh, I would say, because Madhyam also is equally feeling the love, is equally feeling or devoted, or his Vivek is equally developed, but still he has to put effort. It's not very seamless, but for Uttam Koti it's like he is 100% flowing in the stream of love of Sadguru, and he does not have to put effort. It's very natural for him. For Madhyam Koti, it still has to put effort, and always has to collect himself into that direction, and he is able to do that. That's why he's Madhyam, but he has to put effort. But for Uttam Koti, it's flawless, it's effortless. um, so it depends what degree of discipleship we have reached, and it's not one life. The Uttam Koti is only when you are destined that this life itself is the final life. The day you feel that now it's effortless, that means you are in the Uttam Koti. If it's effortless, it's very natural. The If you observe your vrittis, your thoughts that rise from chitta, if naturally only the supportive, the spiritually inclined chittas, the vrittis start rising from you, when it's all driving you into that effortlessly, that means now you are in the Uttam Koti. But if we have to always align ourselves into that with effort, that means still before that, and we are way before. We are still Adham, Adhamadam, Kanisht. Forget about even the Madhyam. At least I am. I should not even imagine of considering myself as Madhyam and Uttam. We are still floating in Adham, Adhamadam. We still have lives, more births to take before we could consider ourselves as the Uttam Koti Shish.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vijay. That was beautifully explained. Yeah. Maybe one other question I had was, I think we have discussed this many times, and this is the hardest one actually, and especially for me, um, because I have a lot of curiosity in really understanding. Because, and this is above and beyond our Vihangam Yoga, like Vyakt and Avyakt. I think at some point we probably have to follow up more on that.
Mhm.
Like the Sadguru Shakti works, and it is required to go from gross to subtle. But how does that Shakti change when it is Avyakt versus Vyakt? You don't have to answer today, but I just wanted
Right.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the the
No,
most difficult
definitely.
one. Ji,
Yeah.
thank you.
No. Yeah. We'll choose all this discussion for the next week, and we also have the conscious mind versus subconscious mind to be discussed. I think we'll have to postpone that for the next week. Thank you so much. Over to you, Meghaji.
Thank you, Vijayji. It was such an enlightening session for all of us. It was a very interesting session where we talked about 4 inner faculties that helps us in developing our wisdom for the gross level to a very subtle phase that we want to grow into. The curiosity of all the participants was amazing. Such wonderful questions to help us to get this enlightening session where we can continue to process this information throughout the week, to contemplate the information and implement into our day-to-day lives. That need not to emphasize the fact that we need to continue to meditate under the guidance of our Sadguru to be able to use these 4 faculties that we talk about today. And as Vijayji said, to continue to develop our Vivek. It's a continuous process. It's not a binary function that we on and off in a day or at a moment, but we continue to develop this and grow our wisdom under the guidance of Sadhguru. Thank you, Vijayji, and thank you all the participants who joined today with their curiosity and such wonderful questions. Now we move to the next phase, and which is also our last phase of the satsang today. I request everyone to participate in this chant of the peace for everyone in the universe. May Sadgurudeo bless the entire cosmos with peace, love, and prosperity. I would now request Devji to recite the last few lines of the Shanti Path for us. Over to you, Devji.
Yes, Sadgurudeo. Shanti Path. Hey Prabhu Shanti Sarupo. Shanti Shanti My Shanti. Shanti Shanti Jana Shanti Ho. Purna Shanti My Shanti. Hey Prabhu Shanti Pradhan Kara. Guru Sarva Shanti. Dev Sada Phala Shanti May. Shanti Shanti Sukha Shanti. Yes, Gurudev Bhagwan Ki Jai. Thank you.
Thank you, Devji. I would like to thank again all of you for joining today's satsang. I encourage everyone to ponder on today's topic that we discussed. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Sulbhaji and Vijayji for the seva and active engagement in the session, and to the entire team for participating and coordinating in this effort. I also thank the NAIVY team who helps us organize and conduct this session every week. I pray to Sadgurudev for a peaceful and spiritual week ahead for all of you. See you all next Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at the same Zoom session. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and Jai Sadgurudev, everyone.